Welcome back to Season 2 of the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share with you what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. Make sure you never miss an episode and download the Discount Property Investor app in Google Play or iTunes today. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. I am your host, David Dodge. My co-host, Mike Slane, is in the field today. However, I am joined by a fellow investor, Brian Trippe. Hey, Brian, how you doing today, buddy?
What's going on, David? I'm doing great.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, Brian, you are located out of Birmingham, Alabama. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And, of course, St. Louis is where I am located. All my listeners should be well aware of that. So, Brian, tell me a little bit about the Birmingham market. Tell me how long you've been in real estate and what you're focusing on now.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. Well, first of all, David, thank you so much for having me on. Hopefully, I'm all about providing value. I'm going to try to provide as much value to the listeners as I can. Birmingham's a great cash flowing market. I think you just got done saying off air that St. Louis is a great cash flowing market too. You can get cheap properties, get good rents. Birmingham's very similar. I equate Birmingham more to, I think a lot of people are familiar with Memphis and Memphis Invest and everything that's going on there. Birmingham's very, very similar to that. Similar population. We just don't have a pro sports team. Although some could say the Alabama Crimson Tide are close. But yeah, man, Birmingham's a great cash flowing market. When it comes to real estate, people either invest for cash flow or they invest for appreciation. And the only reason people would come into Birmingham, the reason that investors flood the Birmingham market is for those cash flowing numbers where, like you said, you can get properties pretty cheap and get great rents. I'm talking about like really solid B-class type of properties. So Birmingham's great. I love it. I've been in the state of Alabama for about 20 years now. I'm originally from right outside Chicago. I know you got some St. Louis people. I'm actually wearing a Cubs hat right now. I know you got some St. Louis people. Don't want to offend anybody, but originally from right outside Chicago. I moved down here in 1998 to go to the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. And, got out of school. I think like a lot of us that graduated and have degrees didn't really know what I wanted to do. Kind of bounced around and real estate kind of fell in my lap. When I first got started into real estate, I started wholesaling because I didn't have a whole lot to begin with.
Now, how long ago was that?
So that would have been 2012. So coming up on 6 years ago.
Okay.
I didn't know anything at all, but we had just bought a primary residence, and that's all I knew about real estate. Me and my wife. So
you've been in it since 2012. You started out wholesaling?
That's right. Started out wholesaling. Made $10,000 on my first deal. It took me 45 days, and from then on, I was just like, this thing seems pretty real to me.
Right.
So I just started busting it. I've done over $1 million in wholesale revenue in about 3.5 years. I was a college basketball coach too, so I kind of took some time off, kind of dabbled in it. Full-time April of 2014. So a little less than 3 years ago now. Well, right at 4 years ago now. Done over $1 million in wholesale revenue. I have over 80 rentals now, or approaching 80 rentals. Do some fix and flip. We started a RIA here locally, a Real Estate Investor Association. I do a lot of teaching and coaching along the way. So just try to give back as much as I can. Love real estate. Real estate saved my life, and I would not be here if it weren't for it. So I'm very, very excited about the subject, and I'm thankful for you, David, for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. So I got a couple quick questions for you.
Yeah.
80 rentals, man, that's amazing. How long have you been buying rentals, and what's your strategy with that?
Yeah, so when I started, probably only about like most of my real estate really started in April of 2014. So right at 4 years ago is when I started really kind of diving headfirst into it. Kind of dabbled in some stuff, but for about 4 years, my strategy in the beginning, because I just didn't have a whole lot, but my business plan from the beginning was to wholesale and take that money and go buy rentals. Okay. But I didn't pay cash for hardly any of them. Did a lot of creative stuff, a lot of owner finance. I'm a big believer in owner financing. If you can get it, I think both ways, to sell and to buy. I think owner financing is one of the huge keys to real estate, period. Did some burst strategy stuff where I bought it with cash, and then I refinanced my money back out. We did a couple of subject twos. We've done some lease options where we got 5 and 10-year options on properties. So a lot of creative stuff to get to that number, almost 80. I think we're at 78 now. So yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's fun.
So I would imagine wholesaling is a great means to an end for you because you can pick up properties, for anywhere from 30 to 75, 80 cents on the dollar.
Totally.
And you want to keep, you just keep and rent. If they need a little rehab, you do that as well, I would imagine, right?
Totally, yes. And I think the great thing that's going on right now is that we're doing a lot of coaching. So we're teaching other people how to do it, and they're bringing us the deals, which is a true win-win because they're going to make money on a wholesale, and then we're going to get a great property, whether we're going to flip it or we're going to keep it. So we've actually been flipping a lot lately because we're not quite getting the numbers that I would personally like for cash flow. So we've been flipping a lot lately, but I'm a big believer in being diversified. As one of my mentors when I first got started, as he put it, be a transactional engineer. I think that there's a way to make money with every real estate deal. So figure out what that way is and try to implement that. But if you're new, and I don't really know the climate of your audience, I'm not sure if your audience is more kind of newer or seasoned. But if you are new and you're listening to this, I highly preach stick with one thing in the beginning and then kind of graduate your way up. And whether it's wholesaling, if it is wholesaling, go all in with wholesaling and don't try to do all these other strategies in the beginning. Just stick with one thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice. That's awesome. So when you said that you're doing coaching and mentorship and you're working with your students, it's a great way to get leads, like you said. Are you doing that just in your local market, or do you have a nationwide strategy? Or
yeah, so thanks. That's a great question. I'm a huge believer in doing everything local, staying as local as possible and just dominating that area, dominating your local area. So I'm sure you've got listeners all throughout the country, if not throughout the world. Man, if I were anybody kind of getting started, or maybe you know a little bit about real estate and you want to kind of take that next step, whether it's be a coach or mentor someone, stay local. And there's no reason to go and compete with all these gurus out there. Be the big fish in the small pond. And I've actually got a book coming out that talks about exactly that. It's called Nothing's for Sale, How to Become the Local Real Estate Authority. And it's very easy to become the real estate authority in your local area when it may be a lot more difficult to try to do it nationally.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. I'm interested to hear more about the book.
Yeah.
And the title kind of throws me off. Why that title?
Nothing's for sale.
Everything's for sale, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
it's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
It's creative, and I'm interested to hear more. Let's dive in.
Absolutely. I think that's what gets people's attention. If you and kind of the whole premise, the thesis of the book is, don't go out and try to sell something to someone right away. Provide them value. I'm on your podcast, and hopefully I'm providing your listeners with a bunch of value. And if you let me, David, I'd love to give your listeners a free copy of the book. So
yeah, that'd be great.
Yes.
How would they go about getting it?
You can go to my website. It's nothingsforsale.com. It's all spelled out, FOR, nothingsforsale.com. You can go in there, put your information in. Just pay a small, tiny shipping and handling. It's very, very inexpensive just to cover my costs. And I'm going to get that book out to you right away. I'll probably have it out to you. Well, the book, I'm not sure when this is going to air. The book comes out April 12th. So very, very excited about this thing. Because so you asked about the book itself and how everything's for sale. You're right. Everything is for sale. But here's the thing. If you provide someone with enough value up front, they're going to want to do business with you. Instead of just going right in for the sale and trying to nickel and dime someone along the way, like every piece of the process, man, like I don't know about you, but I get fed up with stuff like that. My bank charging me a $5 today. I went into my bank statement and I have a $5 fee and I forgot what they called it, excessive withdrawals or something. And it's just like, that's my money. Why can't I take my money out and put it back in and do what I want to do? They're charging
What bank
me.
are you using?
Well, I mean, it's any bank. It's any bank.
I've never heard of that. That's crazy.
It's
excessive withdrawals.
Wells Fargo does it. Chase does it. Bank of America does. All the big ones do stuff like that. And you're in real estate, you know this. We got money coming in and out in large chunks all day long, every day. And it's insane. But little stuff like that, like going through the drive-thru at McDonald's. If I were to ask for a barbecue sauce, they're gonna, you know what they say? Was 25 cents. But if I go through you know why Chick-fil-A is the leader in that space? Because if I go through the Chick-fil-A drive-through line, I say I want 10 barbecue sauces, they'll say, here you go, Mr. Tripp. Have a nice day.
Say it was my pleasure too.
That makes me want to come back to Chick-fil-A, little things like that. And that's right. That's the same premise. If I provide you with a bunch of value up front, it's the law of reciprocity. You're just going to want, it's almost like I've guilted you into doing something back in return for me. If I give you a free book, you might, I'm not telling you to do this and it's not a prerequisite, but you might go on Facebook and say, hey man, I just got this awesome free book from this guy named Brian. I never even heard of this guy. And I'm thankful that he sent me this free book. Well, guess what? That's publicity for me. And
absolutely. So
it's fair exchange. Yeah.
Well, I think that's great, Brian. Tell us a little bit about the book. So what does the book cover? What's the I guess the main message that you are trying to get out there?
Yeah,
nothing's for sale.
Nothing's for sale. The main message is it is for real estate investors. It's for any real business owner, but it's really catered to the real estate investor that may be doing a lot of deals in their local area, have never really thought about how to maybe take it to the next level. I don't know if you're like me, but when we started cranking out a bunch of wholesale deals, probably in 2015, 2016, started just doing a ton of volume, people recognize that. So what happens is they just show up in my office. Just random people show up in my office and say, Brian, I'd love for you to teach me real estate. And it's kind of cool at first because you feel wanted, you feel needed, and it's like, oh man, I'd love to help you. But then after, and and I'm not trying to be mean when I say this, but after so long, I'm sure you get invited to lunch all the time. I probably get invited to lunch. Hey, Brian, I'd love to take you to lunch and just pick your brain and just learn about little bit about real estate. I get asked to lunch 20 times a week. And
I do too. And
I would never be able to get...
I would never ask somebody to take them to lunch to pick their brain because I know the flip side of that now. Whereas if somebody provides me value, then I'm more,
Totally.
It's much easier for me to want to give back to them. But if everyone's just knocking down the door to get information from you, it can become overwhelming. So,
Totally.
Well, I love it. So the book, does it cover all things real estate, or is it focused on wholesaling? What do you have in there? What's the main
None
stuff?
of the above.
None of the above.
None of the above.
It's like a business related book, right?
It's a business book, but it's how to become the local authority in real estate. So I talk about things like what to give away, how to give it away. There might be some people listening who've done some deals in real estate. And what if you just went and started a meetup group? What if you went to meetup.com and just started a little group? I did that back in April 2016. I started a meetup group. Guess how many people came to that first one? 4.
I would say less than 10.
4 people came to that first group. But did I quit? No. It's patience plus consistency is kind of the formula for success. I was patient with it and I was consistent with it every single month. And before I knew it, I had 10, then I had 15, then I had 20. Well, we decided.
So you're 2 years in. This is April 2nd today. So
that's right.
2 years in, and how many people are at the meetings now?
Right. So I'm getting there. In January of 2017, we changed the meetup because we're overflowing my office. We changed the meetup to a full-blown RIA, which is a Real Estate Investor Association. Had 75 people at the launch in January 2017. We just had our most recent meeting which would have been in March. We had 204 people there.
Wow.
And
that's awesome, man.
There's another group in town, and they're getting 25, 30, 40, maybe 40 people. Is because we're doing things a completely different way. We believe in giving back. We believe in giving you the information's free anyway, David. You know that. You go on YouTube, everything's for free. It's not about the information. And that's what I think a lot of people where they mess up. It's like, why would someone buy a coaching program or a mentoring program? It's not for the information, because the information's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's for speed and proximity. It's for speed of implementation, and it's to be close to you and your network. That's why someone would buy a coaching program. And that's what the only thing we really charge, because our membership is dirt cheap. It's $50 for an entire year. I mean, you can't beat that at any RIA. And then we do these little workshops once a quarter. It's like $200 for 3 full days of real estate investing training. So we do some stuff like that for our local area. The book is about how could you do that for people in your local area.
Hey, that sounds great, man. I can't wait to check out the book. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Very
man.
cool.
Go to nothingsforsale.com. I'll send you a free copy.
I'm going to do that. That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So what are you focusing on right now? Obviously, this book's going to be launching soon. The podcast will probably air either right on or right after the launch date. So there's nothing
Cool.
to worry about that with all of our listeners and viewers.
Awesome.
So what are your goals right now?
Yeah.
You got 80 rentals, you're wholesaling, you got a book out, you have a RIA, you are doing coaching and mentoring locally in your market. What are your goals? I'm always interested to hear other real estate investors' goals.
Yeah, so I think goals, it's an interesting thing because they change, right? My goal, 4 years ago is I wanted my wife to quit her job. I just want to replace her. She was a pharmacist, so if you know anything about pharmacy, she's making a ton of dang money, right? And I had to figure out a way to replace her income. So that's why we end up getting to that number as quickly as we did with the rentals. So that was my goal, is to get her to quit her job because she hated it. Well, now my goals have shifted, is how can I continue to build businesses? So I've got a wholesaling business that kind of runs without me. I have a brokerage that I own that really and truly runs without me. I don't even step foot in there, and I don't even list my own properties anymore. I've just gotten to the point that I just don't like it. My sole focus, you asked me what I'm doing today. My sole focus is the RIA. I'm on record for saying this. We're going to have the largest RIA in the country here in the next 3 to 5 years.
Awesome, man. Yeah. That's exciting.
Because we're doing things just a completely different way than anyone else has ever known how to do this. Everybody wants to bring in these selling speakers. We don't bring in selling speakers. How about that?
Wow, that's exciting, because every RIA I've been to, at least 2 or 3 times a year on the monthly meetings, you're talking 20 or 30% of the time they're bringing in somebody that's,
if not more,
traveling around speaking, and then they'll do their 2 or 3 hour pitch that night, and then the following Saturday they have a workshop.
Yep.
They charge anywhere from, it's usually not cheap. Your 3-day event's $300, right?
Yeah, between $200 and $300. Yeah.
Usually they're anywhere between $500 and $1,000 for
totally.
those one day or 2 or 3 day workshops that follow those speakers.
So the natural question is, well, how can you make money with it if you're not bringing in selling speakers? Well, that's what we have worked. Like I said, I can't really say this yet because we're not totally there, but we're close. My next book's going to be how to build a RIA. How to build a profitable RIA to where you don't bring in selling speakers. Because I'm sure, David, you get sick of going to those things where they're sitting there selling you and run to the back of the room and do this and that.
Yeah, typically now I only go unless the topic is something that interests me or will provide value to me. If it's just a basic meeting where you're doing networking, I know that there's always going to be some sort of sales pitch involved.
Totally.
And I typically will avoid them. I'll be honest with you. I love going to RIAs. I love networking. But at this point in my career, I have plenty of buyers, and it's very rare that I'll come across a deal at the RIA unless it's another wholesaler that wants to JV with me. So, yeah, I do attend, obviously, as much as possible. But oftentimes, if I have to make the decision of going versus not going, and the topic's something that doesn't interest me or it's a pitch, I'll tend to avoid it.
That's right. And here's the thing. Most people in your situation, who you're a seasoned investor, you've been doing it for a while, you don't need to go to a RIA, right? My whole thing, and it's in my book too, is like, I wanted to get people like you at my RIA. So I sat back and brainstormed before we even launched this thing. How can I get people to the RIA who are the seasoned guys who will not only they'll give the RIA credibility. If you have all the biggest investors in town at the RIA, you got a great thing going on. So that's a
great point, Brian. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because
go for it.
Every time that we go to RIAs, there's actually several here in town. There's probably 3, if not 4 of them. 80-20 principle, 20% of them are going to have 80% of the people, obviously. There's actually probably 5 or 6. But every time that we go, they always say, hey, is this your first time joining, or are you new to investing? And anywhere between 25 and 50% of the audience raises their hand. And sometimes it's higher. And, not that that's a bad thing. It's good that they're getting people out, and introducing them to, a new way to earn money and invest and create wealth. But at the same time, there's very few seasoned veterans that are attending every time. So the fact that you guys are kind of focused on that is awesome. That's really cool. So how do you achieve that, though?
Building relationships, giving value first. So I'll tell you a quick story. I'm not the biggest, baddest real estate investor in town. I'm just not. I'll just be honest with you. But here's the thing. If you were to look up Birmingham, Alabama real estate investors, I'll be the first one that pops up. So
that's awesome.
I'm just saying there's a way, and that's what this book is about. It helps you become that authority, even if you may not totally be the authority. So you ask me how I get people there. I give them value. So I approached the guy who's doing the most fix and flips in our area. Okay. He did 16 million last year in fix and flip volume. And I approached him and said, I thought of a way. If I would have asked him to lunch or asked him to ride along with them and all that stuff, man.
Other investor, I want to pick your brain. He's going to say, yeah, get in line.
He gets bombarded with that crap, okay?
Right.
It's more like, how much are you going to pay me now? So I thought of a way to approach him, or how can I get him not only to be on my team, I want him to come to the RIA. I want to kind of leverage him and his name for me and for my sake, right? But I want to create a win-win.
Give it back to him.
Correct. I want to create a win-win. So I approached him with this. I said, his name's Matthew. I said, Matthew, I'd like to come and record you. I'd like to ride along with you and record you and ask you some questions. And that way it can help your brand. I want to do like a series on you, basically like a little TV show, and I'll do all the editing, I'll do all the filming, I'm going to ask the questions, and you can kind of use it as like a branding play, and then we can have it to educate our audience.
Sure.
He thought he actually was skeptical, but he agreed to do it. He came to me recently, actually probably about January of this year, and this was about a year ago that we did this. He came to me about a year later and said, Brian, that series that you did on me, asking me these questions, it's like a 7-part series. There's like 10 minutes each. And we're just riding along looking at they're all his properties. I made him the focal point. He said
you're probably going through projects in different stages as well.
Totally.
Let me guess. Now other people that are seeing this are bringing deals to him and helping him build his business.
Totally. The realtors.
So value to him while also providing value to yourself.
100%.
I love the win-win. I always tell every seller that I go out and meet in the field, because my main business is wholesaling. I have rentals as well, not quite 80. I'm a little over 25 at this point. And obviously we do a lot of rehabs as well. I call them more wholesales. Mm-hmm. We don't like doing the $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 rehabs. We like the $20,000 or less ones, especially for the rentals, 10, 15K.
Yep.
But I always tell the sellers, my offer may not be the best offer, and but I want to make this a win-win for you. And
totally.
And sometimes motivation's not there, but oftentimes down the road it is.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Transparency is key in this business. I love it. So that's great. Your goal is to focus on building the RIA, becoming the biggest RIA in the country, write another book on doing that.
Probably.
You have this first one coming out. This is your first book, right?
It's my second. So I wrote a book on wholesaling just for our local area, like how to do it, like a step-by-step process specifically for Birmingham. So I wrote that the beginning of 2017, and I give that away. It probably wouldn't do. I'd be glad to give it to your audience, but I'm sure it probably wouldn't do them much value. But I give that away at my RIA for people who are new. I just give it to them as a thank you for coming, as just like a resource. If they come to the workshop, I definitely give it to them, make sure they have that. So yeah, I'm all about trying to provide value, because I truly believe, David, in the law of reciprocity. Hopefully there's probably someone listening today that hopefully they're going to get some value out of this. And I don't know if there's a way, maybe we could do a JV deal down the road. I don't know what it is, but I think it actually comes back to networking. I think
it does. It always does.
Networking is the single most important thing when it comes to real estate. And here's the thing. Most people don't know how to network. Most people think networking is, I actually had someone tell me this the other day, that one of my coaching students who's brand new to real estate, she said to me, oh, you say networking, and I think that I'm like, someone's trying to sell me something, and I'm like, no. You know what networking is? And I took her, my book's about to come out, and so I've got like 50, I've addressed, not the manila envelope so I can put the book in. I've already got them addressed and ready to go. I say, you know what networking is? The 50 of the biggest, baddest we got to get you on there, David. 50 of the biggest, baddest real estate investors in the country. This is their name and address, where I just direct message them on Facebook, and I want to give them value. I'm going to send them a copy of my book for free, and I'm paying for the postage and everything, just because I don't know what'll happen. Something probably for 46 out of 50, nothing will happen whatsoever. But maybe 2 or 3 or 4, I don't know. Maybe some sort of alliance. I'm not sure. Something. Everyone always asks me, well, like, why? Like, why would you do this? Well, you know what? In the beginning, you may not know why. But in the end, it'll be crystal clear. Maybe I can get a speaking gig, in one of the towns. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. So you never know. If you are constantly and I've got a Gary Vaynerchuk shirt on today, and this is his quote. If you are 51% of every relationship that you're in, you will never have to worry about money for the rest of your life. You just will not have to worry about money. Give more than you take, and it's you're good. You're golden. Just be sure that you are giving more than you're receiving.
Yeah, that's so true, man. That's so true. Earlier you had mentioned about being consistent in action.
Yes.
One of my favorite quotes is it's actually 3 words. It's consistent, persistent action.
Yep.
And that kind of sums it up, man.
Yep.
That's truly the secret to being successful. Is
Totally.
Just consistently being persistent and act on it. So I love it, man. I love your energy. I love what you're working on.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Very cool. I need to get on that list of the top 50, man.
You're on there, man. Yeah, just shoot me your address. I'll send you a book for sure.
Right. Well, speaking of value, I do want to touch on one thing.
Sure.
So in our podcast intros, and I harp on it on every episode, but I like to provide value to all the listeners and the viewers as well. And me and Mike have put together a free course on wholesaling.
Awesome.
So Brian, if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out. You can even tell your own students to check it out. It's freewholesalecourse.com. We got a good domain for it. Very
That's
simple.
awesome.
Freewholesalecourse.com. It's probably about anywhere between 2 and 3 hours of content on there. We give away contracts. We give away calculators. We give away all types of value. It is free. We do capture email and phone number, and follow up with individuals if they have questions or need any further assistance. But I'm all about it too, man. I like to give away the value in the beginning, and I don't ask for anything for anybody to join other than just some of their information. But providing value is huge, man.
Yeah.
So.
And here's the thing, there are people, David, because you do that, there are probably scores of people who are out there doing deals today because of that. And not everybody needs the next step. Not everyone needs the coaching and the mentorship and the one-on-one, the hand-holding. But for the few that do, guess who they're going to go to? They're going to go to you because you're the one that provided that value first. I'm just a big believer in that. Like we give out, like I said, even the book, the wholesale book, the manual that we have, I give that out for free to people who kind of enter our organization, and 95% of them, if not more, they don't need any more help, or it might be they don't really want to put in all the work and effort that it takes, which I get that. That's fine. They're not who I'm trying to, and I'm not even really trying to sell coaching, but they're not my coaching student anyway.
No, I hear you. It's funny that we have different mindsets on our target markets for the coaching programs. And you had mentioned before I started recording this, when we were kind of getting set up, it seems like there's a lot of people out of the St. Louis area that are doing deals, and you call them gurus, and there's 5 or 6 that I just named that you were familiar with. And the St. Louis market is actually very saturated with wholesalers. The amount of marketing that we have to do to get a deal just over the last 2 or 3 years, has almost doubled, which is fine, no big deal. But I've kind of shifted, wanting to educate people on a national level, just because I don't really want to train my next competitor. Because I've trained many of my competitors, which is fine. I don't have a scarcity mindset.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like your market is as, what would be the right word for that? Is as, saturated and crowded in the space for your business. So, by doing it local, it works for you. But for us, we'll still take on students locally, but we're more excited about training that guy that's 800 miles away to get him into the business and making money, because then they're not necessarily going to be competing with us. But
so I'm going to challenge you here, David.
Sure.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit. I face the same exact dilemma that you're talking about. I don't have a scarcity
mindset by any means. I'm all about abundance. It's just one of those things where it's
I get it.
Everybody in my backyard's, doing it now.
I totally get it. I thought the same thing, and I felt the same thing, and it's very easy to feel that. Here's the thing. I was trying to think of a way that I could do this in my local market where I wasn't training up training people to compete with me. So So I talk about it all the time. It's either you have a competitor or you can have a collaborator, right?
A strategic partner.
So sure. So I've tried to set it up to where even my coaching students, we do deals together.
No, I do too.
We've set the program up to where and even if they go out on their own and they're done, I want to lend money to them. right?
Right.
I'm gonna be there with them as much as they want. We've got masterminds that are just for our inner circle. We've got all these little training things to help them be successful, not just because they're only going to come through my program for a short period of time. Right?
Of course.
So, but we've got the RIA for additional training, and then we've got at masterminds as well. We've got a lot of things set up to where it's hard to do a mastermind nationally. And some will say it's hard to do a mastermind locally because nobody wants to share anything. But we've just set it up to where, like you said, we have an abundance mentality. Here's the way I think of houses. Yes, it costs more to get a deal. We might be doing some things that you might not be doing in your local area to try to do something. We went away from direct mail a little bit and started doing some other things. But here's how I think of houses. When I'm ready for my next house, I go to this little conveyor belt that's just got all the houses on it. And I just go over there and I pick one up.
Okay.
That's how I feel about it. Just because someone else gets a house, most people think that that's one less house for me. But
no, I don't see it that way at all. So let me just say one.
I'm not picking on you, by the way.
No, I know you're not. But I want to say something that I think is going to provide value. So all the listeners and viewers that are out there that may have a lot of competition in the field. Just because I say that I'm not looking forward to taking on local students doesn't mean that I don't like other people in my market doing it, because they are strategic partners. So one thing that we have created, it's probably about 2 years old at this point, and almost every one of my major competitors has copied me on this, and I'm not upset about it. I think it's a great tool, and if you're not doing this already, I recommend you do it. So we use Podio as our CRM. It doesn't matter what CRM you have, but most of them are going to allow you to create a landing page with fields. So we created one, and we bought the domain letswholesale.com. Very simple. There's a million different ways that you could, find domains that are similar to that. And basically what we do is we have one of the largest buyers lists in the area. And if there's another competitor of ours, a newbie, it could be, anybody for the most part that has a deal that they need help selling, they can go to letswholesale.com. They can input that information about that property. Now, the form's rather lengthy, but it prevents us from having to go back and forth via text, phone, email, 10 times to get all the information. So we're going to know who owns the property. Is it owner by contract? What's your price? What do you want to market it at? Pictures, all that type of stuff. And then for the most part, we give them a 60% split of the profits. It's a non-exclusive agreement that we send over, just a one-page little joint venture. So if they sell it before we do, we're entitled to nothing. But if we produce the buyer, we take 40% and we give them 60%. And it's amazing that we've been doing this for about 2 years. I would say 1 in 5 deals actually get approved through the system. And we've had over 200 deals submitted to that system so far. So we have done 20% of 200. We've done about 40 deals in 2 years just by leveraging our buyers list.
Totally.
And we are just doing the opposite by leveraging the efforts and marketing efforts.
Totally.
Our competitors, which I like to call strategic partners.
Sure.
But it's a great system that we have built out. And I know for a fact that other people in the area have copied us, but it's okay.
Yeah.
They've undercut us and so on and so forth. But we tell all of our students, once you get to a point where you have a good sized buyers list, leverage it. Go out and meet the other wholesalers in the market and offer to help them, not exclusively, to where you're not trying to take away their money, but if you can get the deal done faster and or for more money, why not? It's a great system.
I love it. What's if people are copying that, what's the next? I love to mastermind a little bit. What's the next step? How can you take it to the next level? Maybe think if there's another way you could take that to the next level.
Yeah, it's getting competitive because people are starting to undercut us by offering 70% or like $2,000 or $3,000 flat, fee to do the marketing.
Right.
And we're not really trying to compete and play that game and then just go higher because then they're going to go higher. So we've kind of said, listen, we'll give you 60%. We're going to take 40, non-exclusive, take it or leave it. However, we have one of the largest buyers lists. So,
gotcha.
If they want to go to another company, and us or them first and then us later, it doesn't really matter to us because, again, we're very selective on the deals that we approve. If somebody sends over a deal that they got under contract for 40 and they're asking, 45, that's not a big enough of a split for us to spend our time and efforts to then give away 60% of that,
right?
So on and so forth. We also have a brokerage, like you said, as well, but we're really just focused on the investor side of the business. We have the brokerage basically just to save money on the listings from our own rehabs and so on and so forth. But cool. It's a good question, man. How will we improve it? I think just kind of getting the word out. that we offer that service, because a lot of the new investors and a lot of the students that we do have in this area, that's their biggest problem, is just building that list. But you said it earlier. How do you get the list? You network.
Totally.
It's all you got to do. It's the simplest thing there is, and one of the things that I tell my students is, if you want to mail absentee owners or even vacant house, really more absentee owners, that's fine. But you're going to have a better ROI on your time by skip tracing and calling those individuals. Totally. Because one half of them are going to be buyers that you can add to your list that 100%. Don't want to sell you a property. So why waste time and money mailing whenever you're going to maybe get 1 out of 30, 1 out of 50 motivated sellers from that list, but you're going to get 1 out of 2 individuals that say, hey, yeah, I have 3 or 5 rentals. I'm looking for more. Oh, great. I'm in the business of selling them to you. So
it's great.
Super powerful.
Yeah. No, I love it. That's awesome.
So awesome, man. Well, I'm glad to have you on the show today, Brian. I'm looking forward to getting the book. Again, tell us a little bit where we can find it and how anybody would want to be able to contact you in the event that they have any questions, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so nothingsforsale.com is where you can go get the book. Nothings, and then FOR spelled out. Nothingsforsale.com. You can go there, just enter your information. You have to pay a small shipping and handling fee. I think it's $4.99 or something. Sure. So which is super. I feel like it's super reasonable. Yeah, and then to contact me individually, we started this thing called ALAREA, the Alabama Real Estate Investor Association. You can get in touch with me personally. I don't mind giving you my email address. You can just send it to info@alareia.com. It's ALAREIA. Yes, sir.
.com.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think it's behind me too. So if people are watching this on the podcast,
they're watching it, they'll be able to see it. But the listeners, they're going to need to spell it out. So ALAREIA.
There it is. ALAREIA.
Well, that's awesome, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you provided me with some value, and hopefully the listeners and the viewers are going to get some value out of that book that you're putting out there. If you're ever in the Alabama area, specifically Birmingham, is that correct?
Birmingham, we just launched in Huntsville. We're launching in Montgomery in about a month. So anywhere in kind of central or northern Alabama. It's harder for us to get down to Mobile. It's about a 4-hour drive from us. Sure. But anywhere in central or northern Alabama, come check us out.
Check it out. Well, if you guys are ever in the area, hit up Brian Trippe, and go check out his free book on how to become the local authority in real estate investing. Did I get that right?
You got it, man. Thank you, David.
Awesome.
I appreciate you.
We're looking forward to that next book too, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, guys, have a great day. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, please visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support, and remember, you make your money when you buy, and you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.